All right. I think we're back together. I don't know why we fell offline. I guess I'm just having some technical difficulties today. I haven't really had a great connection all day, so I'm just gonna go low key, easy, and share with you guys in this simple way. So, okay, so let's dive in. Hopefully, you guys are gonna find me back here again, because I know it sucks when a connection gets lost. It's hard to kind of reconvene. So yeah, let's hope that you guys are able to find me here. Okay. So as everybody's kind of coming back together, I'm just going to talk about the overall theme of the Neverending story. So the overall theme is that there is this duality between reality and fantasy, and that there is a process in the creation, authorization of being, of living, of being in our experience, being here in reality. So these are the major overall themes of the movie. In general, this fantasy reality story is something that's like commonly talked about, and it's commonly just kind of shrugged off as like, oh yeah, fantasy. Okay, fantasy is not reality. Reality is not fantasy. And this film really kind of like blurs those lines. It takes self-doubt and works through its transmutation into divine creator awareness, becoming aware that we are the divine creator of our experience. So the film starts out in the real world, and it is also what I call the Matrix, the third dimension. Michelle was kind of touching into that in her comments on the last stream about this real world Matrix, third dimension in the physical. So the dad is representing logic, and the third dimension, the first kind of part of the film, is dad talking about how get your head out of the clouds, keep both your feet on the ground. So he is representing society, he is representing humanity, he's representing reality and the third dimension. And I think that this is all something that we experience as we go farther into our spiritual discovery. Things get weirder. We're always looking to kind of go through an authorization, like, hey, can I keep my head in the clouds? How much is life going to allow me to get my feet off the ground? What am I providing myself permission to do? What is it that I can say yes to, in light of this reality? And as we go farther down the path, we'll find that the lines get more into a surrender, more into surrender creation, where we're actually recognizing that the rules are less and less. So I love that they use the metaphor of bullies. Bullies are kind of societal figureheads that causes doubt in people. And then it causes people to get into the victimization, that people are able to take any power over us whatsoever. So I think that these are really important narratives that are already just emerging in the film in the first 5 minutes. It'd be interesting to know what the bully kind of representation means to some of the people who are watching right now. Like in your journey, is there something that you can think of that was like a bully representing somebody who was taking power over you? And then also having that realization of when there's nothing to take, nothing to want, there's also nothing to lose. I personally believe that Bastian represents this in the part of the film when they're thrown into the dumpster and they simply get out and kind of go back to day to day. They didn't have any money on them, so they were like, well, I'm not sure, what there is to be bothered by, in a way. Yeah, he wasn't enjoying being thrown in the dumpster, but also he wasn't creating a narrative that this was a place to dwell in his suffering, because he kind of represents that dreamer totem in his life. So then he goes to the bookstore, and I love this juxtaposition, because to me, I see the bookkeeper kind of as the mage. He is the guru. He's got a secret. He knows something that Bastian is drawn to, but at the same time, he's also kind of represented in the antithesis. The bookkeeper is smug and dismissive, and just kind of makes an assumption that this individual just might be like everybody else. But Bastian is bold, and he actually has more chutzpah to defend their passion to these fantasy books. Bastian really stands up for themselves in this moment, which I think is really powerful. So the bookkeeper lures Bastian in, but essentially he also creates kind of a barrier. He says that this isn't for you. The bookkeeper basically says that the books that Bastian reads are safe, and they only allow them to enter into the fantasy from a safe place. It's only a story. And this moment feels so powerful, because in a way it's creating that invitation to the viewer to have this same surrender. How can I enter into this movie as more than just a story? How can I soften my own heart to potentially believe that it's something more powerful than my own experience? How can I enter into this narrative with curiosity and a childlike wonder that comes with no defenses? I love how the bookkeeper is starting out already with this invitation, which I believe is necessary to truly receive the power of the experience. Again, I know there's not many of us right now, but I'm just still trying to keep everybody here with me. So if you have a point that you can relate to about this invitation, just drop it in, and I'll be sure to comment on it here. I have an upcoming showing of this film in real life at a theater where I feel that there's going to be a really more lively dialogue than we're holding currently in this festival on Facebook. So I wish that we were here in person to be able to kind of get into heated passion for this narrative. But for now, since we're not together, please just continue to kind of stay present and feel the invitation to participate in any way that you can. So yeah, this invitation was opened by the bookkeeper, and basically he knows that the book that they're sharing requires the key of leaving the safety of separation, fantasy being here, reality being here, leaving this false safety and going into an unsafe place, an open place, a malleable place. And I love that Bastian decides to make their own rules. They grab the book and self-authorizes themselves into this process and defies authority. Bastian says, I am allowed to receive this transmission, and he takes it upon himself to do that. So Bastian takes the book to school. And there's a common theme in what I feel the school represents. And it's for those who are called from behind, but beyond, it's common to retreat from the mainstream. So he goes to school, he sees his class happening, and already he's feeling this call into his fantasy, into divine wonder. And so he skips the class, and he doesn't take his math test. these are the experiences that kind of surround us every day, where magic and divinity can be coaxing us to step outside of the norm, step outside of what's expected. And we often adhere and stay in the safety zone. And so, in a way, that means that the school represents the matrix. It's very clean and sterile and empty. And then Bastian goes into this attic where there is wonder and history. And it feels like it's representing their own imagination, almost an Akashic records in a sense. Lives that were once lived are found in objects in this attic. And I feel that this attic represents the space within. He's going within. He's going away from the matrix. He's going into a place that is loosely defined. It's clutter, it's dust, it's mystery. I think that was really well done, that's where he was chosen to go into this story. So Bastian opens the Neverending story, and right off the bat, the tone is set. Inside the start of the book is an introduction of the nothing. This is the duality. This is yin versus yang, dark versus light. It's the oblivion, the darkness. The nothing is immediately introduced at the start of the story. It's not something that after you meet all the characters, then it comes in and harasses everything. No, it sets the tone. There is a dark force here, and it's real. So I love that the characters that are introduced in the beginning as characters of Fantasia are like basically representing totems in our own life, in our day-to-day life, and reflect aspects of our own personality. So the rock biter, for example, he's actually an antithesis. He's this massive beast, totally could be fearful, could be aggressive, could be the dark character. But in reality, the rockbiter is so shy and polite and clumsy. I think that this is kind of sending this don't read a book by its cover message, which is the way that we can have compassion for each other. Is like, okay, these totems that we represent in our physical bodies don't represent what's within. And the snail that is fast and nimble, so representing, the beings that can kind of defy their limitations and be their own kind of empowered, liberated version. And so these characters start talking about the nothing. And this little conversation to me almost seems like a something from the I Ching. It's like the rockbiter introduces the nothing, and the other guy asks, "Did the lake dry up?" And the rockbiter says, "No, it just wasn't there anymore." And then the other one says, "Like a hole?" And he goes, "No, a hole would be something." No, there was just nothing. And then they say, maybe it's already everywhere. Like, think of the power of this. Think of the power of this one moment. Even in our limited mind, kind of tuned out, not connected state, we need to fill nothing with something. The contemplation that there is a nothingness that is so deep, not even can it be a whole, is kind of the way that we're interacting with this idea of oblivion, of abyss, just complete nothing. And it's right there, clear as crystal. It's defended and it's walked through in this simple conversation, introduction to the nothing. The power of just this conversation, I feel, was so opening for me to just resonate with how even these ideas of the depth of our being are often interrupted by something safe, like giving it meaning where there is no meaning to be given, I guess you could say. So then they are going towards the Empress, and all the beings of the land are going sent to the Empress. And this represents something in society. There is somewhere else that is going to save us all. This is where we're going to go to receive the savior of all of things, and it's going to be far away from us in an ivory tower somewhere. Like, this idea is just so representative of the societal impression of like how to rescue anything, is somebody somewhere else is going to take care of it. And I think that this is a really powerful, dreamy way of reflecting on a lot of totems in history, in many religions and in many creation stories. And then they actually talk about how this savior is sick. The Empress is sick. And there is a parallel between the Empress's sickness and the nothing. As the nothing gets bigger, the Empress is getting sicker. So there's something really beautiful about this idea of the thing that is deconstructing everything is also deconstructing the authority, the savior. So they're gathered there in the tower, and they're trying to gather as a people to find out who will take on this mission of finding the answer. Where can we go to find this answer? Where is it that we will have the answer to this complete oblivion, destroying everything that we know? Somebody's going to find it. It's going to be somewhere, and we're going to go on a mission for it. And actually, I think that there was a little clip that got dropped out here in my talk. And it's about Atreyu, and how Atreyu represents a young child. They don't believe that it could be them who is going to save them. And yet Atreyu drops everything without a question to be embarking on this quest. Everybody had disbelief. All of society told him it wasn't him, and he decided to move forward. This is parallel to Bastian's discovery when they self-authorized by picking up the book and leaving the store. Yeah, unfortunately, there's a whole slide here that is missing, and it's about this call that Atreyu gets to go forward. So the parameters that he is given to make this a reality are basically, you have to go by yourself, without your friends, without any weapons. And then he goes, is there a chance? Bastian asks, is there a chance that I will survive? And the gentleman at the ivory tower says, I don't know. And this is really powerful to me because the not knowing is every day. It's all of everything, this not knowing. There is nobody who will answer any question without a shadow of a doubt. This is something that society has kind of created as this false reality, that there is anything like a definite anywhere. And so I love that Atreyu asks if he will have a chance of succeeding. He gets the answer that nobody knows and chooses to move forward anyway. if I'm like cutting out or it's hard to hear or anything, like please let me know, because I noticed that there's a lot of people like coming in and out on the stream, and I just want to know if there's something for my connection, because it seemed to be a little glitchy earlier today. So I hope that there's ease with experiencing this and everything. So just let me know if you're having a hard time staying in here. Okay. So then gets introduced this creature of darkness. It kind of looks like a wolf. It looks like this, evil spirit coming to get Atreyu. And they are initiating this duality in the story. Atreyu representing the light, the savior, the hero. And then, of course, there's the duality, which is the enemy, the threat, the beast. And I hear after that there's these places where he's already looking, and I love to look at the names of these places where Atreyu was journeying. Atreyu searched the Silver Mountain, the desert of shattered hopes, and the crystal towers. Just those 3 totems that are created of these places where the answers would be found. The desert of shattered hopes. That this place is somewhere that we journey within ourselves. This is akin to the Silver Mountain, which could represent a time that we have felt at the top of our journey, at the top of our experience, that we're, connecting with the divine to only the next day be in the desert of the shattered hopes. And then he goes into the swamps of sadness. And towards this Shell Mountain. And this name, Shell Mountain, is so beautiful to me. But before he arrives at the Shell Mountain, he is challenged with this loss of his friend. So Artax, his horse, gets stuck in the swamps of sadness and is overcome by his own sadness. And the messages here are so powerful to even contemplate for children, to think that, in a sense, we can't be the savior of our friends. Only they can save themselves. Like, think about the power of that here Atreyu is fighting and insisting to his friend not to be succumbed to sadness. But in reality, only our lightness is our own. It can't be your friend's lightness. That is something that they have to hold within themselves. I find that that's something that people find on an awakening journey, is that they have all the answers, or they have found all of this lightness and ease and joy, and then they look around and see everybody else around them not having that same connection, and then it's common to go into a savior status. How can I uplift all of my friends? And a lot of times it can happen by force. People just try and force their friends to know that love is real, or force them to be happy, or force them to surrender, or force them to trust. And this is not the way that it works. Atreyu says, you have to for me. I'm your friend and I love you. And even in the challenge of life or death, Artax couldn't save himself. Like, this was Artax's journey, and Atreyu can only give him the love. If he can't receive it and he can't feel it within his being, he will succumb to his own sadness. So then he gets to Morla, and this is kind of leading up to the conclusion of what I'm going to share today, because I feel like we've gone through so much. I'm hoping that I'm going to pop this up here and that people are going to be excited about leaving their actions and reactions. It was great because Michelle was here and she was popping in some really powerful questions that are great to spark that conversation. So I'm super psyched to see where everybody chimes in and kind of follows that lead that she created, because there's some really juicy things. I'm going to share my take here. And yeah, we'll see where it can go and how it's going to evolve. I really look forward to. So Morla is this shell. She's the shell mountain. And this to me represents the vessel, the empty vessel. And in her, there is this no self. Morla represents a no self. And when Atreyu climbs up on Morla, Atreyu can't even see them. It's like it's right around us all the time, but cannot be seen. It's like Morla is representing the infinite, the divine. It is around us all the time and we don't see it. And in addition, Morla is also ugly and old. She's not some empress in a tower who's beautiful and majestic and holds all this power. Morla's just a blobby, muddy, dark, and grumbly mountain. Like, think of that duality between what we assume will hold that beauty and divine energy and where it's really hiding. Of course, this causes fear in Bastian to hear this roar of this turtle. And Bastian, who's reading the story, screams and is heard inside the story. And that's the start of where those lines are getting blurred from inside and outside the story. And Bastian disregards that. Not possible. It's already starting where something that's beyond reality is not possible. So I believe that Morla is enlightened. She is representing pure enlightenment. Morla is beyond time. And the reason why this feels true to me is that Morla speaks as a we of no self, no individual. Morla is speaking on behalf of the beyond duality as the royal we, the divine we, the everything we. And most of her answers to Atreyu's questions are not that it matters, but yes, it's the all-knowing that knows everything is perfect. And there's no being here to care. But yeah, you want to know? Knowing can be known. But there is no self in Morla. There's no self to have any of these cares that Atreyu is reflecting at Morla. And Morla declares that and says, we don't even care whether or not to care. That goes back to the theme of the nothing. The nothing is so nothing. There is no thing in the nothing. And this is the biggest introduction to enlightenment that I have seen so deeply, where it is able to even speak like this. I think if you propose to a film director, oh, the turtle lady is gonna speak in wheeze, and we're not necessarily gonna have a reason to tell everybody that that's happening, but we'll put one in there just to kind of shore it up for the people who are not sure of her weirdness. But she's completely true and honest to the royal we, the divine we. There is no self here to care, and there is no self here to identify as a me. And they even go so far and so boldly in a children's movie that Morla says, death, even that would be something, as though she is so deep into the nothing that even the contemplation of living or death is outside of what can be imagined by Morla. Nothing matters because it's all perfect. Morla knows that everything inside creation is pure creation and it's perfect. So this is something that I thought would be a good inspiration to kind of conclude this introduction chapter. And spark some contemplations both in the movie and then also within ourselves. So, how does this connect to your own dark night of the soul? So, Atreyu is there facing this all-knowing, no-knowing being, and is feeling failure, is feeling ignored, is feeling helpless, has lost his friend in a dark night of their soul. Atreyu is in there. When is there a time that you feel that these kind of same codings of experiences have happened for you before a massive discovery? And then the second question is, how far can our body, our vessel, embody these truths? How much can we introduce and occupy the idea of this nothingness? How much can we look into a self that is no self? How much is there for us to welcome into our reality? And how far can our surrender take us into them? How much can we abandon the safety of reality to go into these potential truths? And what divine qualities are calling us now? Atreyu has many of these divine qualities asked of him. Bastian has many of these divine qualities asked of him in this part of the story. And it's beautiful to contemplate, like, where are those happening for ourselves in our lives right now? And hats off to Morla and her representation of enlightenment. How far does this lightness that she represents, nobody home to even care, how much of that do we feel from ourselves in our day-to-day? How much surrender into the divine and into the no duality, the no self, can we hold in our day-to-day? Times that we're safe and comfortable and kind of somewhat in control of our surroundings, I'm sure we're very in tune with that quality of our divine self. But then, when we're being yelled at the gas station or the supermarket or in traffic, how much of us are having that same? There's actually nobody here to care in those moments too. And basically that comes into, like, well, what ways have we been tested in this same divine trust where, Morla doesn't even care whether Atreyu succeeds or not, because Morla has become a part of the infinite again, and there is no self there to care, just in complete and divine trust to the love and the infinite. So yeah, I know that there's only a couple of us hanging out right now and still kind of hanging on. I think that this is a good container for this conversation, about 30 minutes chunks. So we're going to do the Neverending story in 3 chunks, as I defined earlier today. I truly hope that more people are able to watch this between now and the next time that we talk, and can blow up a lot of our reflections and what we witness and notice in the chat underneath this live. I think there's probably 2 lives though, because I got interrupted and everything. But yeah, anywhere in our group would be a great place to drop your thoughts. I invite you to debunk anything that I said here. I want to hear from your divine truth. I want to hear what resonates as a yes. I want to hear what resonates as a no. This is not Alana defines what the Neverending story means. This is like, we all have our own interpretation. So I truly honor and accept and receive all comments. And I feel like that is what this is all about. This is all about coming together to really find the beauty in these media creations. So I'm going to say farewell for today. Just as a way to incorporate all of this. And we're going to go further I'm going to kind of read the group and see if it feels like we got enough momentum to continue this conversation on this one film in a couple days. If there's not a lot of activity and more people are needing time to integrate, or we're needing to gather more people, I'm just going to hold out on continuing. But if you enjoyed anything that we talked about today, if this is resonating with you, like, please drop it in anywhere, because I take a lot of time out to do this as a gift to the people that I know and love and appreciate and respect, and who I love to connect with in this way. But at the same time, this is a creation for all of us. So it might take some time for us to come together. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for those who did pop by here on the live. And I look forward to seeing you soon.